Hello. It has been a couple of months. I want to share an update on what's been going on with me since we last communicated back in April. I also want to spend some time talking about shifting perspective and how we turn things around, look at the other side. And then I want to share with you what I'm working on next. I've landed on what the next research project is going to be, what will be the next, hopefully, book and other things. And I could actually use your help. So stay tuned. This is the latest edition of Reading Between the Lines, and I'm glad you're here. Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining. I'm coming to you from New York City. I had the great fortune to experience the Knicks winning the NBA. It was so amazing. The city was so electric and vibrant. And this idea of collective effervescence is real. Everybody was so excited. Plus the World Cup's going on here. It's really amazing. And I'm really grateful I've had the opportunity to be here in New York in this moment. Thanks to my friend John, who works at WABC, I got to attend The View on Monday morning. And as you know, I'm a huge fan of the show. So that was like, wow, what a thrill. And on top of it, it was the Monday episode when Jalen Brunson was the guest. And then I got to go to a mixer that some of the local and national media people were attending. That was just a lot of fun and connecting with folks. Meeting new friends. And I also got to have a conversation with Bill Ritter, a longtime anchor here at WABC, the ABC affiliate in New York. He's been anchoring the news for 25 years, maybe even longer. And he was recently diagnosed with early stage Alzheimer's. And so last Friday, the 12th, I think that was his last day as an anchor. He's still doing some reporting. He's going to be doing a series of stories about living with Alzheimer's. So anyway, he came to this mixer along with his former co-anchor, Liz Cho. And it was so cool. I just got to chat with him and he's such a lovely guy. And one of the things that we were talking about, which is about shifting perspective. But first, my knee, my surgery, April 30th was the day. My gosh, I was so nervous and so anxious about that. But ended up getting through it. Surgery went really well. They got everything but one pin out. I've been recovering. I can feel the difference in not having that hardware in there. And I had lost appreciation for how much discomfort and pain I was having. And I've actually, as of the last 2 weeks or so now, I've been walking without a cane. In most places in public. There are still some places like airports where I got to have it. It's a little too nuts. The next step in this journey has begun, which is finishing up the PT, strengthening everything up, getting my step back. So lots more to come on that. So let's talk about shifting perspective, changing how you're looking at things. A couple things have come up in the last week, even that I've been here, that made me decide, oh, this is the thing that I want to talk about. I've paid attention to what's going on in the world and what's happening around me, the things people are talking about, and I get inspired by that. And so this came through in a few different ways. One, I mentioned the conversation with Bill Ritter. I was telling him who I am and what I do. And he thought that was so needed to have empathy and to see other people's points of view, because we're living in this situation right now that it can't go on. We can't stay this divided and not coming together in ways to support and connect with one another. And so we had a good conversation about that. I had also heard, I think it was Joy Behar in the View podcast. She just talked about being tired of all the animosity that was going on. She was just kind of sick and tired of it. And I agree. I think a lot of us are tired of hating people on the other side or distrusting them or just dismissing them. It takes a lot of energy. And so how might we come together? And then the thing that really cemented this and that has stuck with me, one of the talks that I gave this week was actually up in Greenwich, Connecticut. And I was talking with the Retired Men's Association of Greenwich. It's an organization that's about 70 years old. They have a meeting, a little social snack, coffee, pastries, and then there's a speaker that comes in. And so I was the speaker this week. I walk in and their meeting with the general meeting assembly was just wrapping up and they were about to go into the social break. And so I was standing there and there was a member next to me. I was going to say he was an older man and They're all older than I am because they're all retired. But there was this gentleman, he said, "Oh, I'm looking forward to hearing from you because I'm trying to figure out how to communicate with somebody in my life that has TDS." And I was like, TDS, I think that's, and then he confirmed Trump derangement syndrome. And he talked about how every time he talks to this family member, I think it might have been his son, who's an adult, might even have been 40s or 50s. Every time he would talk to his adult son was very outraged and just emotional, and was very difficult to talk to him about what was going on. And he just wasn't sure what to do. And he clearly wants to preserve the relationship. And, and then he said to me, he's like, "Don't you think it's a good idea that we're not, that Iran is not able to threaten us anymore?" And okay, here we go. And it was actually at this point that I realized I had not had any coffee yet. And so I got a cup of coffee and I came back and we talked a bit more. And it's not about the viewpoint necessarily. That's for them to have their conversation. But what I shared with him, and then what I really went on and shared with the group, and I want to share with you now, is the idea of shifting your perspective and turning things around to look at things differently. Because as I said to this gentleman, if you keep trying and you're not getting a result, you could walk away from it, but it sounds like that's not what he wants to do. Or you could turn it around, try a different approach, try to see things from his side, try to understand where he's coming from. And this whole idea of shifting perspective and turning things around, my eyes first got opened to that back in, it was 2008. I was doing a project with General Mills. We were looking to understand what aging boomers were going through. And so at this point, it was people in their 50s and 60s as were starting to retire. What was life going to be like? And we were doing these really lengthy in-home interviews. And one of the people I was talking to was this woman, Amelia. She was actually my age. She was 57 at the time in Philadelphia. And she is in the book. If you've read the book or had a chance to listen, she's in the Turning It Around chapter, and then she also appears again in Mirror, Mirror. But Amelia, what struck me, she was talking about situations in her life, and she was a business executive, traveled a lot for work, developed carpal tunnel syndrome in both of her wrists because she was spending all this time on the train, typing on her laptop, and she developed carpal tunnel syndrome. And so she had to have surgery for that. And I noticed as she was talking that she kept making this hand gesture that she would, it was like she had an invisible ball in her hand, just as I'm showing you, and she's turning it over. As she was saying, you've got to turn things around. You've got to look at things from a different perspective. So even as she was thinking about having carpal tunnel and having the surgery for that, she wasn't able to go back to work for quite a while. She said, you've got to turn things around. You've got to look at things from a different side. Back at the time in 2008, her adult son was being deployed to Iraq because there was a war happening there. And we talked about her concern for him being over there. And she said, well, you've got to turn things around. You've got to look at it that he's with a unit of trained soldiers. They worry about the safety. They do what they can to keep people safe. And she's like, you've got to look at it from that perspective and that he will come home. And it was becoming a clear way of being for her and her life and how she moves through the world, turning things around. You've got to shift your perspective. And when I first heard that from her, it really opened my eyes up. And it is the foundation of what empathy is about. So it's shifting your perspective so that you can hear and be open and imagine what it might be like to be somebody else, or to understand where somebody's coming from. I asked her about the hand gesture, what was going on, the turning things around, looking at things from a different perspective, why the hand gesture. She actually said that as she was recovering from the carpal tunnel surgery, her surgeon had suggested she try Tai Chi, very gentle, steady movements. It calms the brain, unifies, can help with the healing while strengthening up different muscles and movements that she was going to need. And so she started taking classes and it transformed her. She actually loved it. She actually then began teaching Tai Chi to inner city school children, which I thought was really amazing. She was giving back. by doing this. And in the course of that interview, I did ask her to give us a Tai Chi lesson. So we moved the furniture out of the way. There was myself, I had 2 clients and a videographer with me. And Amelia guided us through a Tai Chi lesson in her living room, which was, just 5 or 6 minutes of it. But the breathing, the hand movements, the gentle sort of calming. And for me, that had the effect of putting me down that path of wanting to study yoga more and understanding mindfulness and shifting perspective. How do you turn things around? Look at things from a different perspective. And all of us do this. We can all be sitting in the same room, looking at the same vista, and we will all see different things. And that's okay. That's part of what makes us who we are. But then you have to understand and try to put yourself in and turn things around. Imagine what it might be like, what the other person is seeing. And so as we work towards trying to come together with people that have different points of view, it's about turning things around. It's about imagining what it is coming from their perspective. And that can be hard. And as I think about the gentleman that I was speaking with at the time, he talked about the emotions that were built up. And I think that's why he thought, this person has Trump derangement syndrome. You have to think about who that person is, what's motivating them. And if there's emotion that's in their conversation, take that curious breath, which is that big inhale and exhale that calms your parasympathetic nervous system, turns off the fight or flight response so that you have time to respond and respond in a thoughtful manner. And ask, hey, tell me more. What's going on? Because you want to try to get to the base of what's actually happening with the other person. What's motivating that perspective? So instead of fighting up here about, it should be this way or that way, try to get down to the base of what the concern is. What's the fear that's driving this? What's the passion point, the emotional point that's eliciting this response? Can you shift your perspective so that you can see, now I get it. I understand where you're coming from. Therefore, let me share my perspective and why I'm not feeling that way. But now that I understand your feelings and your concerns, here's how we might be able to compromise or collaborate on working on a solution, or at least make each other feel safe and secure and supported, that we might be able to help each other out. That somebody else knows that, hey, we may disagree on this 1 or 2 or 5 or 10 political issues, but ultimately I value you. I value our relationship. I've got your back. That's what we need to understand and we need to remember so that we can start to come back together as a community, as a society, as a nation, as a world. It's coming back together and understanding what we have in common and where our differences lie and how we might work together. But to get there, we've got to shift our perspective. We have to shift our perspective so we can see things from the other person's point of view. And it's not at that high emotional level. It is at that deep level. And this is not easy. This is really challenging work that I'm asking and I'm sharing. So curious breath will be your guide. It'll help you. It'll make space in your head so that you can figure out what the next question is going to be and how to actually respond. And don't worry about getting it wrong. This stuff takes practice. It takes effort. It takes the two of you to really come together and figure this out and to preserve the relationships. And ultimately, that's what we're trying to do, is preserve the connections that we have together. Let me know if you have questions. I'm here to help. This isn't the only time I'm going to talk about this. This is just the start. But here we go. We're going to turn our perspectives around. Now, okay, the next big thing, what else I'm working on, how this relates to empathy, how this relates to my life in research and insights. So an HR executive recently said to me, they're like, oh, you've got this kind of like portfolio kind of career going where you're doing a bit of this, you're doing a bit of that over here, and you've got this going on. And so I am still involved with Dig Insights. I am still doing empathy workshops with them, consulting on insights programs. I am also still doing talks about how to be more empathetic in the workplace and how that can improve communication and collaboration and persuasion, all the skills that we need to be successful. But I've also had the time over the last few months to think about what's the next thing. And I realized the passion area for me at the moment is a conversation I keep having with a lot of my friends, where we're having to start to consider the older generation, our aging parents, or the other people in our lives that are older. And what is it that they want, certainly at the end, but also along the journey. So you may be healthy and independent at this point, 76, 75, 80, 85 years old. But what are your vision? What's your vision for yourself? How do you want to live life? How can I help you get there? I being you or whoever the younger person is in that person's life. So I've had conversations with my parents about what they're looking for out of their life and how things might play out. There's so many different permutations, but we've had some really great conversations about what it is that they're looking for and how they might want to handle different situations and scenarios. We've brought my sister into it. So all of us are mostly aligned. I'm sure we're going to find something that's not quite there, but we're aligned. And so my sister and I can support our parents as they're moving into their 80s and how their life is going to play out. And so I'm curious to understand what the experiences are for other people and how we might be able to help other people have these conversations. And it's conversations from people that are in middle age, the sort of adult children, but also the aging parents. What are they looking for? How do they even think about it? I brought it up with some of the retired men in Greenwich, and they don't see themselves as old. They recognize there's some physical limitations, but you can't really talk about, the aging or their age in particular. The golden years doesn't even sound good for some of them. So I'm learning all of this. And I'm in the research phase. I want to have conversations with people. We're also, my partners at DIG, we are developing a survey that we want to get out so we can understand at scale what's actually happening in society. This isn't just the United States. I'm really interested in how things are working around the world and other cultures. Some cultures are more age or older age oriented, and then there are more youth obsessed cultures. And so the way that adult and aging adults are treated or supported seems to play out a little differently. So I'm trying to understand that. I'm trying to understand different cultures within the United States. I've found that the people that are Black that I've talked to, they've had different experiences and they're approaching it differently than my friends that are white. Similarly with people that are Hispanic. And I want to gather all of these stories. So I could really use your help. There's a link in here to just sign up to indicate, yes, I would be happy to help. And whether you want to do a survey only, if you're open to talking to me on a call, both, maybe doing something else. I'm just gathering all of that and I'll start reaching out after that. Please feel free to share this with any friends, any family, people that you know that are going through this, have gone through it, haven't gone through it yet, but it's coming. I'm interested in people that are childless by choice. I'm interested in people that have already lost their parents to hear what their experiences were like, because this is a universal truth. We are all going to die, but it's a choice in how we move towards that final step. And I would like to help people come together so that they can have a more positive final period of time in their lives as they move towards whenever that end comes. So thank you so much. I appreciate all the time. I appreciate you. So for now, I'm Rob Volpe. This is Reading Between the Lines. Stay curious, ask great questions, listen, and let the empathy flow. I'll see you next time.